Once you've seen Dusty Baker on hitting, you'll want You Can Teach Hitting, the most comprehensive hitting clinic available. Dusty shares more of his unique hitting system and some powerful hitting secrets that will improve any hitter. From bat selection to pitch selection, from hitting fundamentals to hitting adjustments, you'll learn team drills, game skills, situational hitting, and much, much more. You Can Teach Hitting is easy to learn, simple for coaches, parents, anyone to teach. In book or 3-volume video series, it's the best teaching tool on the market today. When the San Francisco Giants named Dusty Baker their batting coach in 1988, they also hired a man who only 5 years later would be considered by many the best first-year manager in baseball history. Always an impact player, Dusty broke into the show in 1972, his first full season with the Braves, with a .321 batting average, 12 points off Billy Williams' lead-leading .333. In 1981, with the world champion Dodgers, his .321 average was third best in the league. In league championship play, he posted a .371 average and a .579 slugging percentage through 4 championship series. And if you were a Phillies fan in 1977, you'll remember Dusty's .357 average and incredible .857 slugging percentage, including 2 game-winning home runs, 1 a grand slam, leading the Dodgers to the National League pennant and earning himself the series' first MVP award. During 19 Major League seasons, Dusty compiled a .278 lifetime batting average, hitting better than 304 times and flirting with that magic number 4 other times. He stroked 242 home runs, drove in 1,013 runs, and collected 1,981 hits. A complete ball player, Dusty won both Silver Slugger and Golden Glove awards during his playing career. And in 1993, he managed the Giants to 103 victories, a record for first-year managers surpassed only by Ralph Houck's 104. Dusty was honored to become the National League's Manager of the Year. Also introducing Jeff Mercer and Marv Bittinger.
I'm Dusty Baker, and over the past 20 years, I've achieved notable success as a major league player and coach. I have always had the dream to bring my knowledge of the game to life through a video series. The series would clearly show a specific procedure that anyone could learn to help significantly improve their game.
I'm Jeff Mercer. Dusty's experience in all aspects of the game, from playing as a superstar and now coaching both major league players, running his own hitting school for youngsters, and my own experience as a professional hitting instructor and scout for the New York Mets, evolved that specific procedure Dusty spoke about.
I'm Marv Bittinger. Both Dusty and Jeff came into my life because of my love of teaching baseball and my enjoyment of working with kids. As a math educator who has written over 100 mathematics textbooks, I wanted to bring to life those procedures Dusty and Jeff knew, to examine the underlying technology and to contribute to a systematic approach to better hitting.
We've broken down the techniques into 8 basic steps. They are bat selection, depth and distance at the plate, stance and balance, grip on the bat, box and bat angle, inward turn, the stride, and finally the swing.
Step 1 of the systematic approach to hitting is bat selection. Summer when I coached, I noticed my kids fell into a lot of pitfalls in terms of bat selection. What in your experience has happened?
Well, you know, what I know is that most kids want to use a bat that's too large for them because they think that that's going to generate bat speed. They think that's going to generate distance. But it's quite the contrary. You know, bat speed comes from a bat that you can handle, a bat that you can start and stop effectively, a bat that not so heavy where the bat head drops below the knob of the bat, causing you to drag the bat. And this is probably the #1 problem that I find with young kids is that they all want to hit home runs, and they think that's going to be generated by having a heavy bat. And it's quite the contrary because most of them can't control it. But when you get to an older level, I find that a lot of the problems, especially in pro ball, is that guys tend to use bats that are too light, because they think the bat speed is going to hit the ball. So there's a fine line between bat speed and bat density. And if you're strong enough to handle a bat, a heavier bat, and still generate the same bat speed, then I would suggest using a heavier bat once you get a little older and you have the finer techniques down. So as you can see, the pitfalls that can happen by guys using bats that are too heavy most of the time at a younger age, and also at the same time the pitfalls that can happen by the older, more experienced hitters using bats that are too light for them.
We'll take a couple of my players that are contrasting sizes, and we're going to go through how I like to teach bat selection. You know, every day I get asked, how do I pick a bat for my son or for my daughter or for myself? And quite often it's not necessarily a stand-pat answer that I give, but more of an answer based on body size and type, because the last thing you want to do is to spend $100 on a bat that you can't use or your son or daughter can't use. So let me show you a couple different styles that I work with in teaching players how to select a bat. First of all, I'm going to take Brian, who is more of a small player in stature, and run through one way that we do it with him. Brian, if you would, what I'd like for you to do is to take the bat in your dominant hand, which would be his throwing hand, and hold it straight out from your body, just like that. Now, what I want Brian to do is to hold it perfectly parallel to the ground for as long as he can, and I hope to get about 20 or 25 seconds out of him with that. Now, you know, some young kids, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids, they're going to select a bat based on what their buddy selects, or they're going to select a bat that they like to use. In most cases, it's a wrong bat, and in most cases, it's as big a bat as they can pick up. The most important part of selecting a bat is keeping in mind that the faster that you move this thing, that's the most important part. Not so much the mass, but the velocity. 1/2 mass times velocity squared equals distance, which I'm not a math person, but what it means to me is that the faster I can get that thing moving, the harder that ball's going, and that's what we want. As you can see, Brian's in pretty good shape. He's not wavering a great deal. If you get to 5 or 10 seconds and a bat dipping down like this and he's got a major problem, you know it's probably going to be too big. Okay, Brian, that's good.
Step 2 of the systematic approach to hitting is depth and distance at the plate.
We call this step depth and distance. Todd Hobson now with the Houston Astros organization will demonstrate exactly what it's about and how important it is to get to that proper depth and distance. Todd?
The way I do it now, which is a little different from when I first started with the system, to assure myself that I get in the box where I am most comfortable, is I first plant my back foot, and while I swing my left foot around, I reach to the outside part of the plate while bending my knees to assure plate coverage. And then from there, I just bring the bat up and start to look at the picture.
Okay, but now that you're an advanced hitter, that's exactly how I teach a lot of my young hitters now. But what about when you were a novice, when you first started with Jeff? How did you derive that?
When I first started, it's a little bit different, and Jeff can probably tell you a little better more than that.
We do the younger hitters, and I'm talking about younger hitter ages 14 and below, a little bit differently. I find that younger hitters have more of a tendency to get up on top of the plate and really inhibit themselves on an inside pitch. So we ensure that they're off the plate a little bit, and by taking a proper stride, they set themselves up in great shape. Todd, why don't you help us demonstrate how we do it with a younger hitter? Notice he lays the bat down in the middle of the plate, and we know where the middle's at because it comes to a point in the back. And where the knob of the bat ends, that's where Todd's going to put his front toe. And that will allow him to get his distance away from the plate, depth in the box, and get him set up and ready to hit.
Step 3 of the systematic approach to hitting is stance and balance.
There are 3 basic stances. There's a parallel stance, which you see Gino's in right now. This is the one that I prefer for the younger hitter, the parallel stance. There's also the open stance, which means that your front foot is slightly open towards third base if you're a right-hand hitter, towards first base if you're a left-hand hitter. Then there's also the closed stance. The closed stance is where you're slightly closed with this foot closer to the plate than your back foot. The only thing with the closed stance is, generally, most players tend to take this foot back here because they feel more balanced and they feel like they have more weight on their back foot in the closed stance. Again, I prefer the parallel stance to the young, for the young hitter, but if either one of these feel comfortable to you, I suggest that you try it. But the only thing is, when you're closed in your stance, it's going to have a feeling like you're stepping in a bucket sometimes, which isn't bad just as long as you come parallel at the end of your stride. Okay, now stride some, Gino.
Okay.
Okay, just as long as you end up parallel to where most hitters start, which means more back here somewhere. Yeah, right there.
Okay.
That's where you're going to end up at if you're closed. And if you have an open stance, then what you want to do, you want to end up back to that same parallel position as your back foot. Okay, now end up parallel, Gino. Right there, and that's what most hitters do. But again, like I said, I can't stress enough and emphasize enough that I prefer the parallel stance. And the parallel stance makes it easier for you to go right back to the pitcher, which is the direction where the ball is coming from. Balanced workable stance is almost the same whether you're playing basketball, football, tennis, or whatever sport. And Todd's going to demonstrate how to get your proper balance and what it feels like once you have it. Todd? Do you feel balanced right now?
Yes.
Totally balanced?
Very balanced.
Very balanced. Almost, yeah. You see, now see, if he wasn't balanced, I could virtually just push him over. Now, Todd, tell me the feeling that it gives you inside when you know that you're balanced.
When I'm definitely properly balanced, I have a lot more confidence at the plate. The curveball doesn't get me on my heels, and I'm a lot more aggressive.
And see, that was a very important point that he says. You know you're not balanced if you're on your heels.
Step 4 of the systematic approach to hitting is grip on the bat.
The easiest way to derive at the standard grip, which is the one that we recommend, is to put the bat in your left hand, across your fingers, across the fingers in your right hand, and the top hand if you're right-handed, and the opposite way if you're left-handed, which is very similar to a golf grip, except that we don't put our thumbs on the bat. We put our thumbs across our fingers. You see we have our knuckles aligned here, and the benefits of this are a number of things. Number one, you don't get the bone bruises that you get in your hand by choking the bat in the back of your hand. Also, at the same time, when you hit the ball, it's going to be a lot easier to keep your top hand underneath, which we'll explain later. And as well as the main thing that you do, it allows you to get the maximum extension that you're going to get on your bat forward, which is going back to the pitcher. The second grip, which is a modified grip, which is an offset like on the standard grip, there's somewhere in the middle. This is probably my second choice because it gives you a little more option which one feels most comfortable for you. You have basically the same extension as with the standard grip, but you get a little more arc in your bat, therefore getting the ball in the air a little more, simply because you don't have the same range of motion with your wrist going out, back toward the pitcher and staying in the strike zone. The third grip, which we don't recommend, not to be confused with choking up on the bat, is the choke grip. And the choke grip doesn't permit a hitter to get fully extended through the zone and stay on the plane of the ball. He either is going to have to roll over, which is a ground ball, to stay on the same plane, or the bat head is going to have to come up in the zone, therefore not getting it as extended as the other two grips. Also, at the same time, the hitter's going to hit more fly balls. On the standard grip, you see how my knuckles are aligned with each other up and down. On the modified grip, you see where my knuckles are somewhere in between. And on the choke grip, you can see the back of my hand and back of my knuckles, and you see how they're aligned this way.
Step 5 of the systematic approach to hitting is box and bat angle.
I recommend the 45-degree angle on your bat because that's the easiest way to get to the ball without having...
Wait a minute. I remember watching you when you used to hit balls way into the seats, just about every other at-bat, over and over again, and you did not have a 45-degree angle with your bat.
Well, that's what I recommend.
Okay.
Now, see, since you caught me, I started down here when I first started playing baseball, and I couldn't hit the curveball. Then I went to this, and I couldn't hit the high fastball because I was somewhere in between. Then I end up here, but I still try to maintain my box, which I was going to get to next before I was so rudely interrupted. And but my box was an extended box. At the 45-degree angle, you're not going to have the tendencies to wrap the bat, to drop them down. You're going to have a more direct route to the ball because most of the guys that hit higher for average tend to hit with the 45-degree angle, and I just come right straight to the ball without making any mistakes in between. Now, when using 90-degree, some guys have a tendency to wrap the bat, which takes them longer to get to the ball. Some guys have a tendency to drop the hands, which makes them uppercut, which also takes them a long time to get to the ball. Sure. Now, since you've learned this step 5 already, I want you to show the people out there my box, since we already been discussing, the bat angle.
All right. As you can see, Dusty does have a proper box, starting from the front shoulder, down through the elbow, across the front arm, and right here. You're right.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you,
right.
Todd. Now, see, here's a pupil telling the teacher that I'm right, and so I must be doing something proper.
Step 6 of the systematic approach to hitting is the inward turn.
Next thing we need to talk about a little bit. Kyle, let me have your bat if you would. How much do you weigh? 95 pounds. That means that I outweigh you by a lot, okay? You and I are going to get in a fight right now. And it's not going to be a fair fight because I outweigh you by so much, right? Tell you what I'm going to do, though. I'm going to let you take the first swat. If you don't knock me out with the first punch, though, I get to hit you back. And I'll knock you right past that screen there, okay? Show me what you look like taking the first swing knowing you got to knock me out with that first punch. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, get ready now. Get ready. Ready to go? Go slow motion through your swing. Okay, try it again. Now, let me ask you something, Kyle. Would you take your hand from here straight forward and hit me? Or what might you do beforehand?
Cock it back.
Why would you cock it back?
Get more strength.
Does that make sense to you? It makes sense to me. How come we don't do that when we hit? Did you know you don't do that when you hit? That's what we call our inward turn. Now, at 95 pounds, it's a safe bet that you're not going to be overpowering strength-wise, right? I mean, you're not going to walk up to the plate and immediately hit every ball at the ballpark. Would you agree? So we need to pick up as much strength for you as we possibly can. Would that be right with you? Okay, just like cocking back to punch. You're going to cock back hard. That when we come forward, we got a little bit more to come forward with. Let me show you how to do that. Put the bat in your hand. Okay, check your depth and distance real quick for me, Kyle. Lay your bat down in the middle of the plate. Atta boy. Front toe. Good. How do we hold our feet? Pigeon-toed. And we want good what? Balance. Good. What kind of a grip here? Knuckles lined up, standard grip. We want to form a what?
Box.
Box. What degree angle with the bat?
45.
45. Good. Now, let's figure out how we can get just a little bit stronger. I've got kind of a simple way that we can do that. And then I'm going to stop and show you the difference between not getting an inward turn and getting an inward turn, and how much strength we can pick up from there. Okay? What I want you to do, Kyle, so I want you to watch this picture, and when he gets to right here and shows you his hip pocket, I want you to show him yours. And this is the way that we do it. We're going to tuck the front knee, front hip, and front shoulder about that far, 3 inches. Okay? So it'll look just like this. Bend your knees a little bit. Good. Now, back in your regular stance. What happened to your hands when you tuck that front side of your body? You notice? Did they go back a little bit? About how far would you get?
3 inches.
About 3 inches. You know, that's all we need. Isn't that similar to what we did here? So when that picture shows you his hip pocket, you show him yours. And we do it by tucking the front half of the body. I don't want your hands to move by themselves. I don't want that. All right? You're going to wrap that bat around your head, and we're going to get into all kinds of problems. Let the front half of your body move those hands back about 3 inches. Can you show me? Okay, not bad. Now watch me. You're on me this time. When I show you my hip pocket, you show me yours. Okay? Don't even need to turn quite that much. Just a little bit. Just tuck the knee, the hip, and the shoulder. Just a little. Good. That's excellent. That's excellent. Just make sure you got good balance.
The next section I'm going to talk about, I'm going to show Gino here, is the inward turn. The inward turn is created by either the foot, the knee, the hip, or the shoulder, or all of the above. And the inward turn is designed to put your swing into motion as the opposite reaction to the inward turn of the pitcher who's winding up throwing a ball to you. So when he shows you his hip pocket, I have to show him mine. Now I'm going to imagine that the pitcher's winding up. At this point, he winds up, and I wind up by my inward turn. Some people pick up the foot, as you see. Some people just turn, or others just tuck the shoulder, which actually forces my weight backwards, puts me in a great position to uncoil so that I can hit the ball in a predestined spot, hopefully in front of the plate. Yeah, there you go. Nice time. In order for Todd to have timing on his side, he will watch for a cue a pitcher will always reveal. Now watch the pitcher closely. Look for that hip pocket.
I'm going to take 2 swings. One without an inward turn, one with an inward turn. I want you to tell me which way I'm going to swing the hardest, which way you hear that wind whip a little bit more. I'm not going to put forth any more effort one way or the other, okay? But you tell me which one's the better swing. This is no inward turn, just like you used to take. Again. With an inward turn. Did you notice a little difference? Okay. Now, what do you think that difference is going to be? We swing the bat that much harder. What's that going to mean for you? A lot harder, right? And now instead of that third baseman fielding the ball and throwing you out, now it gets through.
Step 7 of the systematic approach to hitting is the stride.
We do our stride in kind of a different way, which I'll explain to you in just a minute. I want you to pick your front foot up and I want you to put it down about right here. We take a stride at what we call a 45-degree angle. We step actually a little toward home plate. I'll explain that in a minute. I want you to land on your big toe right there, okay? Notice how your heel's a little bit off the ground. And I want you to pretend like you're stepping on a big patch of thin ice, all right? What would happen if you took a stride and went like that, Kyle, with all your weight? You'd go through the ice, wouldn't you? So we want to land real light, okay? All right, take your inward turn and then your stride. Go back in your regular stance. Okay, inward turn, stride. Excellent. What degree angle?
45.
Okay, step on
Yeah. Same patch of ice.
thin ice and land on what part of your foot?
The toe.
Big toe. All right, now we're ready for the fun part. Okay, everybody wants to get to this part, and if you get there, if you've got a good stance and a good stride, well, we got a chance to be successful. Everybody wants to get to the part that we're going to get to now, which is swinging the bat.
Step 8 of the systematic approach to hitting is the all-important swing.
The 8th step, the swing. This is the highly complex series of movements and observations. Split-second decisions are made here.
We've broken step 8 up into 5 sub-steps.
Focusing the eyes, squishing the bug, slapping the hands down, Ike to Mike, and the follow-through. Dusty, this first sub-step, focusing the eyes, I know is an area that you concern yourself a lot with.
Well, you know, this is where it all begins. It all starts with seeing the ball. And the longer you see the ball, the better chance you have to hit it, the better chance you have to identify it, and the longer chance that you can wait for the ball to get to you. And, you know, we have one of our pupils here that knows the system, Todd, that can explain, you know, his definition of watching the ball exactly.
Well, when I first step into the box, the first thing I look at is this general area here, right in this area right here. A right-hand pitcher right above where the ball's going to come from.
Okay, that's the first thing that you focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now see, Todd and I differ a little bit. We're saying the same thing, but I focus a little sooner. I like to focus on his eyes in order to get a focal point of concentration, and then I go from that to his release point. Now, if he's throwing overhand, he's up here. If he's throwing 3/4, he's more off to the side. And if he's throwing sidearm or submarine, he's even down a little lower, and that gives me a longer time to, you know, to see the ball. I tell you, watching the ball is something that most of us take for granted. First thing you tell little kids is watch the ball, but the higher you get up in classification of baseball and the more knowledge you have about the game, the less and less I see guys watch the ball. They're worried more about their hands, worried about their position of their shoulders. But number one, you have to watch the ball and keep your hitters. A hitter should keep his head square to the ground, squarely to the ground, so he's looking at the pitcher out of both eyes. Both of them are level versus you see a lot of hitters with their head tilted. And what that does, it gives a breaking ball even bigger break than it's supposed to have in the first place. So all you guys out there really, really concentrate on the ball and keep your eyes level, because if you can't see it, it's going to be even more difficult to hit. The next step, we have a funny name for it. We call it Squish the Bug.
We use simplistic terms like this to describe a more complex move. Kids will remember these names a whole lot easier.
Actually, Squish the Bug really means to pivot on the back foot while thrusting his or her hips forward. You can see why Squish the Bug is easy to remember. Let's take a look at this part of the lesson.
The first thing that happens as we start to swing the bat is your back foot is going to roll up this way. And we have a kind of a funny way of remembering that. See that bug on the ground? Squish the bug. That's the first thing that's going to happen when we swing the bat. Squish the bug. Can you do that for me? Squish that bug. Okay, now don't come up to the toe. Squish the bug. Good. Right to the ball of the foot. Right there. Excellent. Okay, leave your foot there. So we've taken our stride at a 45-degree angle. Now we've squished the bug.
The two weaknesses I see most in the professional ranks who come to the majors are the inability to get a proper inward turn and the inability to pivot the back foot and thrust the hips forward, what we call squishing the bug. Let me demonstrate.
The next part of the swing we call slapping the hands down, which means swing the bat on a slightly downward plane through the ball. Let's see Dusty work through the move with a young player.
Andrew, what I want you to do is to make sure that you catch my hand with the backhand first, because this is synonymous to a swing. You're going to catch it with this hand, and then this hand is going to catch this hand and hit through the zone. Okay, but see, most hitters end up using this hand more than they use their bottom hand, so I want you to really concentrate on slapping with this hand first. Okay, and you're going to do everything the same. You're going to take your same stride, land on the toe, like on thin ice. Make sure you squash the bug. Everything that we're doing here is going to be the same thing, except we're teaching you how to hit through the ball. Okay? Ready? Here we go. Good. Okay, catch it with the bottom hand. Perfect. Okay, one more time. That was outstanding. Let me see. Okay, that time you hear it, is it? Okay, make sure you catch it with this hand. It should go pop, pop, like that. Ready? Perfect.
Your bat, which was at a what degree angle?
45.
45, is going to move on a slightly downward plane until we get to the point of impact or contact, and now that bat is what? Can you tell? Is it level? It's level, isn't it? That give us a good chance to hit line drives, ground balls. What happens if we swing this way? We're going up, aren't we? So we want to move that bat slightly down. The next sub-step is what we call Ike to Mike. It's an important move because it keeps the head where it should be, down on the ball. So we've squished the bug. So the next thing is we slap the hands down, which means we move right to here. Okay. This front shoulder, we have a funny name for. He's called Ike. And this is Mike. When you're in your stance looking out at the pitcher, who's your chin on? Ike. Ike. When you start your swing through, squish the bug, slap the hands, down through, right there. Now who's your chin on?
Mike.
Which means your head didn't move. We went from Ike to Mike. That head stayed right where it was at. I want you to watch the ball the entire way in, okay?
The last part of the swing is called a follow-through. And in order to have a proper follow-through, you have to hit all the way through the ball and finish long, versus most guys that have problems, they either finish short and cut it off, therefore decelerating their swing, versus accelerating their swing through the ball.
The last thing I want you to do as you finish your swing, squish the bug, slap the hands, Ike to Mike, is to make sure we get a good follow-through. Finish with the arms and get a good follow-through. Relax, no tension, just relax and let it go.
Let's watch Jeff as he takes us through the systematic approach to the actual swing.
Okay, let's take a look at all the parts of the systematic approach put back together again. Todd's going to help me with this, and I'm under the assumption that part number one, which is bat selection, Todd's already taken care of for us. Okay, after bat selection, Todd, we need to check our depth and distance at the plate. Now, he's going to do this just like the novice hitter would do it. He's going to lay the bat down in the middle of the plate, across the back corner, and line the toe up at the end of the knob of the bat. Now, remember that for the more advanced hitter like Todd, he may have an alternate stance, and Todd, why don't you show us that one? Where he's going to bend the knees slightly, touch the outside part of the plate, make sure he's got good plate coverage, and then he's up into his stance and ready to go. I like the toes a little bit pigeon-toed, turned in. Make sure he's got good balance. You can always walk up and give him a shove from front or back and make sure that they do have their balance. From here, we want to check the grip on the hands. We want it to be in a standard grip with the middle knuckles lined up, just like Todd's got it right here. We want the box down the front arm, across the bottom forearm, down the back arm, across the shoulders. Top of the top hand about level with the back shoulder, and we like the 45-degree angle with the bat. From here, we want to make sure Todd's getting a good look at the pitcher, eyes level, head level to the ground, both eyes on the pitcher. He's in pretty good shape there. Now we're ready for the inward turn. As the pitcher shows the hip pocket, Todd will show his. He's into a nice tuck right here with the front knee, the front hip, the front shoulder. We've got our movement backward, allows us to gather our strength, also to time the pitch. From here, we're going to take our stride. Now remember, the way that we like to do it with the little one, or the younger hitter, is to take a 45 step toward the plate, land on the big toe, step on thin ice. Now Todd, being a more advanced hitter, might like to go into that parallel stride, which is perfectly all right, and they can certainly do that. He'll stride right back at the pitcher. As the pitcher throws the ball to him, his momentum's going to carry him right back toward the pitcher. Okay, Todd, go back to the 45 for me if you would. Now that he's taken his stride, we're ready to start into the swing. Focus on the eyes of the pitcher, make sure that we move from there to the release point, so he's got a good opportunity to recognize the pitch as soon as it comes out of his hand. Once we've done that, now we start into the swing. We lead with the back foot, roll it up, squish the bug, Bat starts down through the strike zone, a slightly downward plane, slap the hands down through the ball, start on the front shoulder, Ike, finish on the back shoulder, Mike, and finish your stroke, Todd. And that's a recap of the systematic approach to hitting.
We hope you've been helped in your coaching or in your own game. Review the tape as you progress through the systematic approach to hitting, and we look forward to hearing about your success using these techniques.
And now, Dusty will give some advanced hitting tips.
First thing he wants to do is that he wants to get balance. See how he's moving? To make sure he has balance, to make sure that he's relaxed. He has to keep breathing so that tension doesn't set in. Then the next thing he does, he focuses his eyes right on the pitcher for concentration. So he's getting balance, he's relaxed, he's concentrating. Now the only thing that's left now is for him to attack the ball, but prior to attacking the ball, doing the systematic approach to hitting, the way he's still moving right now, that's going to allow him to have a correct, what, Todd?
Inward turn.
Thank you. And when he takes that inward turn, what happens is he sets his body back into a coiled position in order to explode. Now, the next thing that happens after you take an inward turn, the pitcher shows you, you take your inward turn when the pitcher does what?
Shows me his hip pocket.
And then you show him your what?
Hip pocket.
Exactly, because hitting and pitching are equal but opposite to each other. And that's exactly what's happening. When the pitcher shows you his, you show him yours. Now you're at the exact same point in time and equal but opposite to the pitcher. Now, when the ball's on the way, what do?
Stride.
You stride, and what do you do when you stride?
Land on my big toe.
In order to do what? You land on your big toe in
like
order...
on thin ice?
Exactly, on thin ice, in order to stop his body from moving forward, in order to have something to hit against, because most guys hit, they step and hit at the same time, but you want to step to hit. And what he's doing, he's stopping his momentum here from going forward, allows himself to stay level. His eyes aren't jumping, because when you land too hard, the first thing that happens is your eyes jump, correct?
Exactly.
When your eyes jump, the ball's moving, it's already tough to hit in the first place. Now, after you land on thin ice, what's your next move?
Squish the bug.
Okay, and then that occurs where?
On the backside.
Exactly. Demonstrate. And when he squishes the bug, next thing he does, brings his head down into the zone to watch the ball hit the bat. He starts short at the ball. Okay, now he's hitting the ball right now. Okay, you separate your head from your body, leave your head here. Now you go where? Ike to Mike.
Ike to Mike.
Exactly. Here's Ike and here's Mike. Then he finishes long in order to have a proper follow through. Now, to have a proper swing, he should not know where the ball's going. Okay, the fans will tell you where the ball's going. He's not supposed to know where the ball's going if he keeps his head down properly. Okay, you see how balanced he is? Here, his hips are square to the pitcher, and now the swing is completed. Now that we've come to the conclusion, it gives us great satisfaction to know we may have aided you out there to be a better teacher, to be more improved in your game, or simply maximizing the ability that you already possess.